Hello internet friends, so I've had an idea for a new series of videos on my channel called Star Wars Galaxies Stories. What I want to hear are your Star Wars Galaxies stories. Your story of how you heard about the game, came to play the game, and your experiences once you started to play it. The idea is that I'm going to tell you my story now, then in the comments below you can tell me your story. Then I'm going to read through those and they'll form the basis of the next video and the next video and the next video. So I'll pick one person's story and then read it out for the next video. Kind of like what Star Wars Galaxies Legends team already do with their player spotlights, but this is an opportunity to maybe go a little bit more in depth with people about how they came to play the game and their experiences playing the game. Done a little bit of this by talking in the podcast with key people, but I want to open it up a little bit more and hear from more people, and this is a way to do that. I think it's best to go into the details at the end, so I'll tell you my story and then I'll talk about how to approach it and what to put in the comments at the end of the video, so stick around for that. Like I say, I think it's going to be a cool community thing that we can do together and hear from one another and share stories about playing Star Wars Galaxies, particularly while we're waiting for new content and stuff to come to the game. This is a cool thing to be doing. So my Star Wars Galaxies story, where to begin? I guess we have to begin in the early 2000s. I'm at university, although I can't remember hearing about Star Wars Galaxies at university. I must have done. I'd be coming towards the end of my time there. In my second or third year probably. It was like 2001 or 2002 I graduated, and there would have been news of Galaxies development while I was there, I'm pretty sure. But what I do remember is that I was not enjoying university very much. I've got to tell you a bit of my backstory and who I am so you'll understand the role of Galaxies in that. So I'm at university, I'm not enjoying it very much. I'm trying to convince myself that I'm interested in the works of Dickens and Jane Austen and examining how they came to write their books, but actually I'm not enjoying the critical analysis which I've done through GCSE and A-level. I'm studying English, so I should be learning these things. I should be writing essays about this stuff, but I'm really not feeling it. I'm also studying creative writing at the time, but the one thing that's occurring to me at this stage in my life is my crushing averageness, and it's starting to get to me. When I was a kid, like, I was always the top of the class through high school and A-levels. I did pretty well as well, but once I got to university I started to realise just how average and unremarkable I was, and this was starting to grate on me because I'd also been brought up like I was always the apple of my mum and dad's eye. I was always the centre of attention, and university was really teaching me how average I was. And there'd always been this sense of being a high achiever. You expected to be a high achiever, and I wasn't being a high achiever at university. This started to get to me. I started to drink an awful lot. Instead of going to the lectures and stuff, I would go to the off-license, get a bottle of vodka and play Final Fantasy Tactics all afternoon until I passed out. That was my kind of response to this pressure to succeed, to sink into oblivion basically and kind of ignore it and push it from my mind. So I was not doing very well at university, not enjoying it. I started to alienate my friends because I was so self-conscious and felt like I was letting everyone down. I felt like I was letting my friends down. I was no fun to be around. I was just whiny and miserable and depressive thoughts all the time. I didn't want to hang out with anyone. If I needed to use the computer room, we had computer rooms at that time. Not everyone had a computer in their halls of residence or in their lodgings. You had to go to the computer room, but instead of going in the middle of the day when everyone was there, I would go in the dead of night when I could be sure that I would not have to talk to anyone. In short, I was retreating into myself through this feeling of being down low, just the pressure of having to succeed, but the acknowledgement of the fact that you're really just an average dude and you're not gonna set the world alight with your genius. But one thing I wanted to do and had always wanted to do, and it remained even when I was feeling like that, was to write and be a writer. So as my finals approached, and I did okay in my finals and stuff, what I should have really been doing was looking at jobs where the English degree would be applicable, teaching, journalism perhaps. But I knew I had this dream of being a writer. I didn't know exactly what form it would take, but I knew I needed a lot of time to write. I didn't want a career that would take up loads of time and I'd have to work really hard at. I wanted something that I could go to at the end of the day and then come home and do my writing, and that's where I wanted to focus. In hindsight, it's not a particularly good thing to do, to be that prescriptive that early in life. I think you should have much more open mind about what you're going to do, and just, you know, having a career doesn't preclude you from doing other things. You can do them all, but I felt like I just needed that. So after university, I ended up getting a job that was, for me, a meaningful job. I was a care assistant, and I would look after people in nursing homes and things. And that was my way of doing a job that I could kind of do, feel that it was meaningful, helping people. Then, you know, that has answers the question of what's the purpose of doing this? Well, I'm helping some people, I'm doing something good. And then at the end of the day, I could go home and write. So that's what I was doing after university. Instead of getting the job with my degree, I got that job at the care home. I got a little flat, a little studio flat, where I would go home at the end of my shifts. And I would write or play games or just do my own thing. But I was still very isolated. And that sense of, well, let's be honest, it's a sense of failure. It's a sense of worthlessness at that stage in your life. You feel like you failed at a lot of the things. And even though you still have ambition and aspirations, you feel like you're not getting anywhere. You're in a, quotes, dead-end job. It's not a dead-end job. It's a very important job, and we've seen that with COVID-19 this year, how that kind of job is very essential, and that's why I did it, because it's meaningful. But that with that qualification in mind, that's an interesting way of putting it, because I did have that uni degree, and I should have been putting that qualification to better use, but I wasn't. But as I say, I'd alienated a lot of friends, and this is something that I didn't mean to happen. It was mostly to do with my feelings about myself, that I'd alienated my friends, but also my childhood kind of taught me that friends come and go throughout your life. My mum is a church minister, and during my childhood, from the age of 5 through to 17, 18, we moved from town to town every 2 to 3 years or something like that. So my experience was that you have a group of friends for a period of time, and then you move to a completely new town on the other side of the country, and those friends are then replaced with a new set of friends. And without realizing it, I'd done that through my university time and A-level time as well. When I finished A-level, those friends are gone. I didn't keep in touch with them. I didn't have the foresight to do that. And my childhood had taught me that that doesn't happen anyway, no matter how hard you try. So you kind of, after A-level, you exchange that group of friends for that group of friends to this new group of friends. But unfortunately, I had alienated all my friends at university. So not only was I in this job that was not related to what I wanted to do at all, I also had no friends in my hometown, which I'd returned back to. They'd all moved on and were doing different things as well. So I was very, very isolated in the job that I was doing. No one was interested in writing, doing anything creative. So this is all background and where I was when I heard about Star Wars Galaxies and decided to start playing it. It was medication, I think. It was self-medication. It was a way of being social at a time in my life when I felt like nothing else was going right, and I didn't have anyone to talk to and express this stuff to. I could focus on a make-believe world in a universe that I really love, Star Wars, and I could escape there and I could make friends there. And so when Star Wars Galaxies was coming up, I bought my first PC with my wages from the job that I was doing, and it really became the focus for me. It was the light at the end of the tunnel, at the end of one of those long shifts. There are 12-hour shifts, and I was working nights as well because I'm a night owl, and that can be a bit weird because you never see the sunshine. And I would take the instruction booklet that I'd got through my pre-order for Galaxies, and I would read that at work, and I would plan out what I was going to do when I got home and got into Galaxies. Getting into Galaxies was interesting, actually, because I joined a guild called, anyone who is out there who remembers this guild or perhaps was even a member of this guild, please let me know. I've not heard from anyone, even with all the Star Wars Galaxies videos I've been doing so far. I've not heard of anyone from this guild. Wanderhome it was on, and it was the Consortium. Consortia was the name of the city, and that was the guild that I joined early on, and they started forming into like groups that would do certain things in the game. The resource gathering group, the combat group, the crafting groups, and I was part of the resource gathering group and made like key friends in there through bulletin boards, the forums and stuff. This was before the game even started, but this is where it becomes interesting in terms from, well, maybe it's only interesting to me, but in terms of Star Wars Galaxies and an online experience, teaching you how to start rehabilitating. I don't want this to sound too like clinical and psychological, but I feel like at this time in my life, because I damaged a lot of relationships, things had gone the way they were, I was very frustrated, I felt like a failure. I needed rehabilitation. And talking to these people who were interested in this game on the forums started to do that. I started to interact with people. I started to really get to know them. We still didn't have voice at this stage, so it was all forum posts, and then once we got in the game, it was still text chat. But we were definitely getting to know each other. And as an example of that, I started to learn that people on the internet, this could be an actual solid, really, really solid thing. It's not ephemeral. It's not bollocks. I grew up in the time when adults were always like down on computer games. They're violent, they're addictive, they're whatever they are. And that's been there my entire life. It's less there now, but even so, there's still this attitude of games, the internet, it's escape, and it's not real interaction, right? But this was like, I feel like me as a gamer, you guys probably as well realize that that's not true. It's just not true. If you are genuine, you will meet genuine people. And I met these guys, they were all in America. And the guy, I can't remember if he sent me the beta discs or he sent me a copy of the game. I think he sent me a copy of the game. I paid him via PayPal and he sent me a copy from America. And that was the first time of exchanging money with not a shop or a business, just a random person in America who I trusted because I got to know them through the forums, and they sent me the game. So I was able to get into Galaxies and start playing with these guys, and it was a lot of fun. So early days in Galaxies, it was a case of me getting the resources, and we would spend all our time in Tyrena or on the outskirts of Tyrena, building up the city, getting the resources we needed, building the houses together, and that took a lot of coordination. You start to get to know people really, and they start to get to know your personality. You start to trust. They start to even like you, and you feel valued. That's something that I had lost at that stage, and feeling valued was really important. So when someone needed a particular resource in the game, I would have it, and I would be able to supply it for them, and that gave me a sense of achievement and purpose. So Galaxies took shape, and I was there for all those early parts of the game and all the controversy to do with the combat upgrade and the NGE and whatnot. I think it was before the NGE I decided that that American server was not really working because I was not online at the right times for people. So I started looking around for an EU guild, and I came across this guild called Artenridge. And that was on the Farstar server. Shout out to anyone from Farstar. And that was a guild where the other one was organizational and task-based and work-based. This one was more relationship-based. Arten was more people-focused. People did have roles and have jobs within the thing, but it was less organized, and it was more about just chatting and chilling together and doing stuff together. They had an open day in their theatre where they asked noobs, not noobs, but people who were strangers to the guild to just come along and do like a musical act or some kind of performance. And this is really important, and it will sound silly to anyone who doesn't play games, is not familiar with online interaction and how real that can be, and is not familiar with Star Wars Galaxies, but this really did happen. Honestly, it's the case. So I started doing, I had my little Rhodian character, and at this event that Artenridge had put on, I can't even remember what I was doing. People were doing songs, they were playing instruments, they were doing recitals, and I started acting out on stage. I just started doing all the emotes and doing silly, like doing a sort of a silly comedy routine where I was confused on stage and I didn't know where I was. And at the end of that, someone would be picked, and I got picked as the winner of that, and because it was funny or something. And I remember that being so important to me at that particular time in my life. I felt like I got a handle of how to communicate through the computer with people in a genuine way, that I could perform and that I could be funny or that I could be interesting for people. And that had been something, like I say, with my childhood, that had been something that I'd always been kind of encouraged to do by my parents. And it was like, well, maybe I can still do it, and maybe the reason I'm not doing it in life is because I've lost confidence, and I feel it's not to do with not being able to do it. you've lost confidence somewhere along the line, wherever it happened. I don't know exactly where it happened. I'd lost confidence in myself, and that experience gave me confidence to do something. At that stage, I realized that although it's really good to feel that confidence in a game, that's not reality. So I started to cast around for people. I felt like, well, if I can perform in a game, if I can impress people in a game and show some talent and some ability in a game, I can do that in reality. Maybe I can do it in reality. So I started getting involved in a local theatre. I started submitting scripts to that theatre, and eventually I became one of the people who was part of the writing group at that theatre, and gradually progressed to the stage where I was giving script reports and analysis for the other students. So, and to have been able to do that, it was massive for me, because suddenly I realized maybe I did have something to offer, and it all came through that sense of just feeling confident about yourself again, and putting yourself out there. And I track it back to that experience in Galaxies. I started doing all these creative projects with friends that I met, actors and stuff. We would do audio dramas together. I even got on stage sometimes and performed myself, and I went on to put on plays on stages and organise all that, and that was massive. I'm a completely different person now to who I was. I'm reflecting back to who I was and how much I've learned since. Anyway, so Galaxies was ongoing through all this time. The NG occurred, and at that stage I fell out of love with the game. I was very frustrated after having grinded up to get a Jedi in the game, and suddenly the NG happened. It stripped away a lot of the hard work you'd done. It really was a slap in the face. It's been talked about so many times, but this is why a lot of veteran players still find it hard when you mention the NG to kind of be open-minded. I feel like I have now. I can see the benefits of the NG and what it led to, but initially it was a bad idea, and so I left the game. I think I left finally about a year before the game ended. But Star Wars was still interesting to me, and I was still with that guild that I'd met in Galaxies, so we got ready to play Star Wars Tour together. We did a podcast all about that game and community events, and got into that game together, and we were playing through that, but it never really lived up to the experience of Galaxies for me, and I always pined for that. At some point with my theatre stuff and with my writing, which is always kind of going on and progressing in one way or another, I've never made a lot of money doing it, but it's something I'm always doing. But I started to feel like there's this thing I'd learned through doing stuff with those actors, those performance projects and stuff. I'd learned some skills, but I'd always felt like I needed a lot of stuff, a lot of other people to realize these ideas. And there was this thing called YouTube, well, more broadly the internet as a platform, but then YouTube, that if I just taught myself some skills like video editing, and got a little bit of a handle on how Photoshop works and stuff like that, got a little bit better at speaking into a microphone, I could possibly start doing some stuff where I didn't need a lot of actors and extra people, production to put on projects. I could kind of create things myself, similar to just writing, like writing a script, writing a story. It only takes you. It's just like you're one person. There's this opportunity to do that online. So I started getting interested in doing that on YouTube, and I've been doing YouTube about 6 years now. 2 years ago I was listening to the Massively OP podcast, and Bree from Massively started talking about this new server for Star Wars Galaxies called Star Wars Galaxies Legends. I dabbled in the EMU and played it on and off for about six months to a year, and never really gelled in that game, never found a community. It's a very established server, and I found it quite hard to meet people. So when she spoke so highly about the server, I thought I would give it a go, and I really enjoyed it, and it was more fully fleshed out. It had the space in it, really good. It was running well. It was kind of what I wanted. It was late stage NGE, and I liked that version of the game. It had done away with a little bit of the ponderousness of the earlier game, the difficulty of doing basic things. It was quicker, but also it had a lot more content than the earlier game. So it was ultimately my favorite version of the game, with space and that late stage NGE. So I decided, I just felt like this is great. I'm back in Star Wars Galaxies. How weird is that? Maybe I had the YouTube channel at that stage. Maybe I can just put up some videos about how to get started on this server, and some of the things that I have to do every time I load up a new server for Star Wars Galaxies, like setting up the auto attack and how to get started, where to start, where are the quests, that kind of thing. So I just did that one day in between writing some scripts and see if anyone watches that, and gradually that's become the case. More and more people have started watching those tutorials until the point we're at now, where kind of I know loads of people in the Legends community, and also there's this sub community of people who play Galaxies and also watch my videos, and also who follow me and see what I'm waffling on about on the internet. So it's kind of weird, isn't it? Like that early experience, early 20s, when Galaxies was a part of my life, then there was a big gap there. What is it, 15 years or something? How many years is it? Like, if it finished in 11 and we're at 20 now, so it's yeah, I'm overestimating how long it's been, but let's say nearly a decade there with no Star Wars Galaxies, and then suddenly Star Wars Galaxies is back and it's doing the same thing again. Do you see? Like, it is opening up new opportunities and opening up new means of communication and socialization and meeting new people. Galaxies just has a way of doing this, and it's still doing it today the way it was doing in the early 2000s. It's a remarkable game. It just has this way of doing this thing, and I don't think you can also undervalue the kind of the people who are in charge of each individual server and how much they instill confidence and a sense of family and community. Legends is excellent. They are really excellent at that. You really feel secure and feel like part of something when you're playing the game. You feel like accepted, and yeah, so that makes you want to contribute and makes you want to do more content. Makes you want to get involved, and that's what I feel right now. So I guess in short, that is my Star Wars Galaxies story. That brings us right bang up to date, talking to you now and putting it all down in a video for people to listen to, that I hope is vaguely interesting. But really, this is just the start of, like I was saying at the beginning, what I want to be an ongoing series of Star Wars Galaxies stories. I want to hear your stories. Now, I can't promise to read out every single one. You know, it depends on the content of the story. If you post, "I like Star Wars Galaxies, that's why I play it," well, I'm probably not going to make that into a video, right? So if it's thought out and it's interesting and it's you know, it doesn't have to be brilliantly written or anything like that. Don't think that, and it's got to be amazingly articulate or anything like that. Just be genuine and leave genuine comments and genuine feelings about it, and put some thought into it, and I will pick ones to read out. I haven't thought very far beyond that. That's like the basis, but I'm already thinking like, well, maybe there's an opportunity for people who do want to read out their own story to read out their own story. I wouldn't object to that. If you wanted to do that, you wanted to send me the audio file, let me know in the comments if that's something you want to do, and I can do it that way. Or maybe there's an opportunity for me to get key people who are involved in Legends or involved in Galaxies or Star Wars more broadly, who knows, to kind of read out people's stories. But that's in the future. For right now, I think basically just leave your written story in the comments, and it'll be my job to read them out and turn them into a video. And any other ideas you have, let me know. Thank you for watching. I hope you'll get involved. I'm really interested in hearing your stories, and I think it's going to be a good community thing for us to get to know each other better. So I'll see you in the next video. Maybe it'll be your Star Wars Galaxy story. Who can say? Write them down below. Bye.